Howdy, everyone. All right, let me talk about some details now that I've been doing this vinyl wrap for a while. So, the first thing that you'll see in this clip is that I like to pull the backer off of the vinyl as I apply it. I don't want to pull the backer material off of the entire sheet at once, mainly because you can see that I'm working over top of a bed sheet. And if I were to pull that backer off of the bottom all at once, the vinyl could potentially pick up a lot of debris from the bed sheet, even though it's clean, fur, dust, hair, whatever. So I like to pull the backing out from underneath of it as I do it. And that also makes it easier to keep air bubbles from getting trapped underneath the vinyl. You'll notice as I unroll it from underneath with my hand, I'll come right behind it and flatten it out just to make sure that there aren't any air bubbles trapped inside or underneath of the vinyl as I lay it out. So here is the top side of the, what is this? This is the right elevator. So this is right side up now. A couple of things. One, I don't know if this will show, but there is, you can see where the bottom vinyl had come around the trailing edge and now the top vinyl is laying over top of it. You can see a very slight indication of an overlap along this trailing edge. It's about, I'm going to say it's probably no more than, it's definitely not 3/8 of an overlap along this trailing edge. It's smaller than that, larger than a quarter, but not much. And then let me try to flip this over. On the bottom side, a couple of things on the bottom. So on the bottom side where the top vinyl wraps around and stops, you can see that line here, right where my finger is. That's where the vinyl comes around and stops. Now this is something that I'll have to keep an eye on, because if this starts to unroll, I'll have to tack this edge down with something. I'll probably try one of those pens that I was talking about earlier that's specifically made for that. But I think you're supposed to put that down first and then put the vinyl over it. I'd like to find something that I can just wipe on here, something clear that I can just wipe across this to help hold it in place. But I'm not going to worry about that until I need to. So if this holds up just like it is, I won't mess with it. The other thing that I forgot to mention that is very, very, very important, like I had mentioned before, this particular vinyl has a very thin, clear film to protect it while you're doing the install. Once you're done with the install, you're supposed to peel that protective film off. You can see it right here below this blue tape. It's like a saran wrap almost. It's very, very thin. Since I knew that this vinyl was going to come around and lay over top of this vinyl, I needed to make sure that I pulled back that protective wrap so that this vinyl would lay directly on this vinyl. You don't want this to come around and attach itself to the thin plastic film, because later on in life, when you go to pull that film off, it's going to be trapped underneath this piece here. So wherever you're going to have an overlap, make sure that you pull that protective film out of the way so you can have vinyl to vinyl contact. And this is going to stay just like it is. I'm not going to pull this plastic off until after I have all the pieces moved to the hangar and everything is installed on the aircraft. Once these are installed permanently, once I get them in, get the tips painted, get them balanced, get the weight drilled for the balance, get everything done in the airplane ready for flight, then I'll pull the protective vinyl off, or the protective coating. I had thought about leaving it and flying the airplane with it on there as long as I could, but I don't think that's a good idea. It's very thin. It's like a saran. I don't think it would hold up. On the black vinyl, it's very obvious that there's a film covering it. When you pull it off, it looks great, but with the protective cover on the black, it doesn't look that hot. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull it all off once I get the plane assembled. So this elevator is finished except for painting the tip and balance. I'll come back to that at a later time. I'm going to bring up the horizontal stabilizer. I'm going to start working on that from scratch, and I'll just go ahead and time lapse that whole process, I think. So, talk to you guys later. All right, so this time lapse demonstrates pretty much the whole process. So, as I said before, at the beginning, I start with the dirty work. And here I'm using the Dremel to knock down the high spots of all the pulled rivets and just making sure that everything is clean and smooth before I put down the vinyl. Once I'm done with that, I move on to doing the acetone wipe down. You'll note that I focus on the rivet heads first. That's just because I usually use some kind of a tape to protect the heads as I'm driving them, or actually to protect the surrounding aluminum. And I just want to make sure those are nice and clean individually before I wipe down the entire piece. Next up, I laid down the clean sheet to give me a nice clean surface to actually do the vinyl work. And then I'll cut out the pieces that I'll need of the vinyl to match the actual component that I'm getting ready to cover. And then another final cleaning just to make sure everything is dust free and there isn't any pet hair or anything like that laying on the surface. And then on this particular piece, I'm not wrapping everything. I'm leaving some exposed aluminum. So I'll mark out a line and then I'll use the cut tape on that line just to make sure it's nice and straight. And then I'll go ahead and start with the vinyl. You'll note here again that I'm pulling the backer from underneath a little bit at a time as I put the vinyl down. So I'll pull it out a few inches and then I'll work down the vinyl and then unroll the backer a little bit more and work down the vinyl. That does two things. One, it prevents the exposed tacky back of the vinyl from gathering up any fur, hair, dust, or anything like that. I unroll it and stick it down right away so nothing gets trapped underneath. And it also allows me to unroll it and work out air bubbles. So I really don't have any issues with trapped air underneath the vinyl. You'll note here that I'm cleaning again, and that's because these larger pieces I treat as individual sections. So the horizontal stabilizer was basically broken down into four parts: a top and a bottom, and a top and a bottom. And I'll only clean the section that I'm going to be working on. I don't want to clean the whole thing and then drag it around on this bed sheet and flip it around and do different things with it because I know it's going to pick up dust or whatever. So I'll clean one panel and then I'll put down the vinyl. Then I'll clean another panel and then I'll put down the vinyl. And like I said, I'll roll the backer out from underneath and I'll use my hand to smooth it out and work out air bubbles. And I do like to use just my hand. You'll notice I do not and have not and probably will not use any kind of a squeegee. I don't like the squeegee idea. It's not comfortable for me to use. And I like using my bare hand because I could feel everything. I can feel if there might be something trapped underneath the vinyl. I can feel all the air bubbles. It's just more comfortable for me. So I just use my bare hand. Sometimes you'll see I'll put a glove on my hand. I'll use the white glove basically just to do an overall smoothing. Like you see here, I've got the gloves on, and I'll just do that. After I know there are no air bubbles and everything is smooth, I'll put the gloves on just to wipe it with some heat to make sure that the adhesive on the back is set really well and everything is smoothed down. The glove just ensures that I don't, with my bare hand, I like using the bare hand to feel stuff underneath like air bubbles, but the gloved hand just glides a lot smoother and it really does help with making sure everything is flat. And with the heat gun, it just feels better, making sure that the glue underneath is adhering really nice. And then it's just more of the same, right? You clean, you take your cut piece, put it down, and unroll it as you go. work out the air bubbles, fit it nicely, and then use your cut tape and your X-Acto to trim it, and then the heat after the fact to make sure that the glue is nice and set and that the film itself is tacked down and stuck. And that's about it for this clip. I'm going to continue to do some more time lapse, and I'll talk about some more details as we work through them. All right, talk to you guys later.